Hey everybody, it's William. Welcome back to Spa for another Hotlap setup video. Today we're going to be driving the Mercedes AMG GT3. It's one of my favorite GT3 cars. Any game it's in real life, whatever, the look of it, the sound of it, I like everything about this car. I like the road version of this car. Bit of a Mercedes fanboy whenever it comes to their cars. I know it's not the most exciting thing in Formula One, but as far as like sports cars and some of their history and everything, I absolutely love it. So we're going to do the setup and the hot lap for this car. We're going to jump straight into the hot lap now. We'll talk about the setup after the hot lap. So hopefully I can put together a somewhat decent one for you guys, and I will talk to you whenever we go through the setup. Okay everyone, that was a hot lap of Spa in the Mercedes AMG GT3. Not the best lap I've ever done, but this car is a little bit challenging just to get absolutely perfect for me. 217.676, ultimately what I wound up with. Let's jump into the timetable real quick. You can see I actually did 3 laps, pretty close to each other on the clean ones, 0.006 of a second difference. Just marginally faster in the second sector and slower in the third sector. This is more along the lines of what the car should do. Bad last sector, but this middle sector specifically, 59.988, I just really struggle with the track limits in that sector a little bit, and Puhan especially, overdriving it a little bit. But that's on me, not so much on the car. The car feels very stable, very secure in what you're doing. Yeah, like I said, just overdriving. So let's go ahead and get into the setup. Nothing too crazy on this page. You're running more tow all the way around. Especially in the rear, this really helped the stability, putting the power down. It's also probably causing a little bit of understeer. but ultimately the car was a snappy oversteer, so it really, very few complaints about the car. It does want to understeer on occasion, but it is very stable in my opinion. So let's go ahead and jump to the electronics. Traction control on 3. Lower than this didn't go too well for me. I could make 2 work every now and then, but just it would seem like it would want to cut in at some points on 2, and it wouldn't cut in aggressively enough, but it would cut in enough to really just unsettle the car. I wasn't a fan. 1, my foot is made of a brick, so that was a no-go on that one. But 3, really no complaints. Wasn't super invasive or anything. Felt pretty good. ECU map on this car: 1 is fastest, 2 middle, and 3 slowest. Basically all you need to know there. Mechanical side of things: stiff front anti-roll bar. Can run it softer. I have run it as low as 5 with all the settings everywhere else the same. It is a little bit crazier through the high speeds, as it's not as stable, rolling around a little bit more on the front, but you can do it. So stiffer would be better, a little bit more planted through the high speeds, but maybe suffer a little bit through the slow speeds. And if you're a person that likes to use the curbs, it might get you there as well, where softer is going to be a little bit more unpredictable in the high-speed corners, but softer and a little bit more manageable over curbs or through the slow-speed corners. So just a little bit there. Like I said, lowest I went was 5. Highest I've been is actually 8. 7 felt a little bit better than 8, though 8 was a little too stiff in my opinion. On the front rear, 2 or 3. 3 is just a little too much in my opinion, and the preload is anywhere from 30 to 90, 60 and 70, somewhere in that. Definitely felt like the optimal range. Spring rates, bump stop range, nothing much to talk about there. A little bit stiffer in the rear, but ultimately the front is still stiffer, just kind of the way it worked out in the range that you have anyways. So yeah, a little bit stiffer ultimately in the front than the rear. But pretty close to each other. Just felt like anything softer in the rear and it wasn't stiff enough, and anything stiffer in the front and you were giving up some grip ultimately. So tried to get the balance there. Dampers, again, nothing too crazy. A little bit stiff on the fast bump and rebound, or a little bit more dampening, I should say, on the fast bump and the rebound on the rear of the car, but handles curbs relatively well. It has done some weird things on occasion going over the curbs, but I haven't really been able to get it to recreate the issue, so I don't know if I just hit it really weird one time. And the curb I worry the most about on this track is the one going into a Rouge, and I've never had a problem with these settings through there. Other than that, everything's pretty conventional, and then we get into the aero. Very low front ride height, 45 millimeters. A lot of splitter on the front of the car. If you want a little bit more downforce on the front, you can bump that to 11. It is very drivable. Thought about actually making the setup with it like that, but figured to err on the side of a little bit of understeer. So ultimately, if I was driving this for me around, I'd be running it on 11, but this is a pretty safe, stable, in my opinion. So the rear on 70 and 4 rear wing, a lot of adjustability in here. So raising this up increases the rotation, especially on corner entry, and lowering this down decreases the rotation. So basically what I mean is if you increase that, you're more likely to have the car want to oversteer a little bit on corner entry, and if you decrease this, it's going to make the car tighter or a little bit more understeery on turn in. So I'm running it at 70 here. I have run it as high as 75, and I have run it all the way down at 67. I've done almost the same lap times on both of them. You just have to kind of drive them differently. So if you're experiencing one of those things, like if this understeers a lot on corner entry for you, raise the rear. If it feels very loose, very out of control, it's probably something in the way you were actually using the wheel or the pedals, because you can kind of drive around it. But if you just want to try and get a better feel out of it, just lower the car. It'll make it a little bit more stable, and you can get some laps in it, and then slowly raise it back up if you want to. And you may prefer it just being lower all around. We all have kind of different styles, and different things work for us. But yeah, there's that is a lot of adjustability in the balance of the car just right there. So raising and lowering the rear, super easy. Raise it, loosen the car, lower it, tighten the car. Yeah, other than that, there's not much more to talk about in the setup, so I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for sticking around and watching. If you like this video, give it a like, share it with your guys. You know, don't keep it to yourself. If you find that it is really working for you, share it with your buddies. You know, let's all get faster. If you find that you are wrecking every single corner with the setup, share it with your buddies. You know, let them let them suffer in your pain. There's a lot of other good videos out there for this car with kind of different setups and philosophies. So maybe one of them will suit your style better. I don't claim to have the greatest one out there, but this is what works for me. Hopefully it'll work for some of you guys. And we'll bring you another video before too long. Thanks everyone, and I'll catch you on the next one.